Hello and welcome. And today we're going to talk about something that's really important for staying safe as we use our computers, tablets, and phones, and that's password security. Think of this presentation as a way to get some helpful, practical tips for how to create these important passwords and how to keep them safe. After all, all want to be able to enjoy the wonderful things that the internet has to offer and do so without worry. So our goal today is to give you some simple, easy to understand ways to protect your personal information online. We'll start by understanding why passwords are so important. Then we'll look at some straightforward rules for making them strong. After that, we'll explore the best ways to store these strong passwords. And finally, we'll look at how to put all of this into practice. Let's begin by thinking about why passwords matter to you. Just like you have keys for your home, your car, or your mailbox, passwords are your digital keys to your online life. Think about all the places you might use a password these days. There's your email, which connects you to family and important information. There's your online banking, which helps you manage your money, and maybe even websites where you shop or connect with friends or family on social media. Now, each of these places holds important personal information about you. And there are people out there, unfortunately, cyber criminals, who try to get into these accounts and steal information, money, or even your identity itself by pretending to be you so that they can send out scams. And that's why keeping the digital keys safe is so very important. Now let's talk about some common password mistakes that can make our accounts vulnerable. Take a look at this picture. It's one key opening up many doors. You can see the danger of using the same password for everything you do online. If someone gets a hold of that one key, all of your doors or all of your online accounts become wide open and vulnerable. This can happen if a website you use, such as a shopping site, for example, experiences what's called a data breach. And that simply means that the company's lists of usernames and passwords get stolen and exposed by cyber criminals. If you use the same password on that shopping site as you used for your email or your banking, those critical accounts could be at risk, even if they weren't directly hacked. And that's why having a different password for each account is so very crucial. So, how do we create passwords that are strong and difficult for other people to guess? Let's start with our first rule. Rule number one is make it long. When it comes to passwords, simply making them longer is actually more effective than making them super complicated. Think of it like having a very long fence compared to a short one with a tricky lock. The long fence is just harder to get around. We recommend using at least 12 characters, but ideally 15 characters or more is even better. And don't worry, I'll show you how to remember the long passwords in a very simple way. And the main idea here, though, is length. Rule number two, mix it up. Once you have a longer password, add some variety to it. This means including a mix of different types of characters. So using some capital letters, some lowercase letters, some numbers, and even a symbol or two like an exclamation point or a dollar sign or the pound sign. Let me just give you a simple example. My garden blooms. That's a pretty easy to guess password by itself. But if you add a mix of characters and a little bit of length to it, make it something like My Garden Blooms exclamation point 2025, that password becomes much, much stronger and much more difficult to guess because it combines length, variety, and it's still based on a phrase that you can easily remember. So this brings us to the golden rule of password security, and that's rule number three, be unique. The important thing here is to try to remember not to use the same password on different websites. I know it's very tempting to do, but every important online account you have should ideally have its own unique password. Remember the same key for the different locks and how dangerous that is. So I know it sounds like a lot to remember, but we're going to talk about some smart ways to store them next up. The reason this is so crucial is that if one website you use is ever hacked and that password is stolen, all your other accounts that use the same password are immediately at risk and vulnerable. So by having a unique password for each account, you're putting a separate, strong lock on each of your valuable online accounts. And finally, there's rule number 4, and that's avoid the obvious. That means don't use personal information that can be easily found online or guessed. Things like your birthday, your pet's name, your children's or your grandchildren's names, or your address, those can be easily found online, especially with a little bit of searching on social media. Now, criminals often use these common pieces of information first because they're surprisingly effective. Instead, make your passwords something that are personal to you, but not something that can be easily discoverable about you. So a longer phrase that only you would think of is a great choice. Okay, so we've talked about making passwords long, mixed, unique, and not obvious. So now here's the big question that comes up. How in the world am I going to remember a unique complex password for every single website, every single account I use? And the honest answer is, well, for most of us, you can't. Not all of them anyway. It's just too much for our brains to hold. So that brings us to our next crucial step. Finding a safe and effective way to store your passwords. Think of it like a very secure address book specifically for your passwords. So let's look at a few common ways you can do that. Our first option is what I call the old-fashioned way, and that's just writing them down in a physical notebook. The pros of that, it's very simple and you don't need technology to do it. Many people feel comfortable with this method because you can hold it in your hand and pull it out whenever you need it. The cons, though, the biggest drawback is that notebooks can be lost, stolen, or damaged. And let's be honest, it's not very convenient when you're trying to log onto your phone or a different computer. So here's a tip. If a notebook is your preferred method, you have to be sure to keep that notebook in a very safe, secure, discreet place, like a locked drawer or home safe or a place that no one else would think to look. And make sure it's separate from your computer or phone or devices just in case. Second option is to use the password saving feature that's built right into your internet browser. Now, your browsers are things like Google Chrome, Firefox, and Safari. That's the tool that gets you online in the first place. So a feature oftentimes will pop up and ask, do you want to save this password? Now, some pros of the password saving feature. It's incredibly convenient and easy to use. The passwords are usually scrambled or encrypted so that they're hard to read without the right access. And the downside is that generally only works on a specific computer or specific browser. And more importantly, if your computer is shared with others in your home, well, they have access to those passwords too. So keep that in mind. Software or apps that are specifically designed for storing and managing passwords, there's quite a few out there. Some examples include LastPass, 1Password, or Bitwarden. Some pros. This is a very secure option, and they can be accessed across all devices, and they automatically generate and fill in complex passwords for you. And the cons of this, well, it requires learning a new tool. So, now that we've looked at a few different password storage options, each has its own set of pros and cons. The notebook, that's the old-fashioned way of writing it down in a book and keeping it in a safe. And then there's the browser. That's incredibly convenient and easy to use. On one device, though, it may allow others who use the same device to access your account. And then there's password managers. Again, those are separate software or apps you can purchase. And password managers are highly recommended and modern solution for strong online security and simply for convenience too. So the next step is to give it a try. And there are some steps you can follow. Here's one more tip. Use two-factor authentication. It's sometimes called multi-factor authentication as well. So with 2FA or multi-factor authentication, MFA, you first have to provide something you know, like your password, and then you provide something you have, such as a code sent to your phone or even a fingerprint scan. Since a cybercriminal would need to get both your password and your device, it makes it much harder for them to get into your accounts. Think of MFA or 2FA as an extra layer of security that protects your personal information from hackers. So even if someone manages to guess or steal your password, they still can't get into your account because you are that second factor. You still hold the device. So it's a simple step that provides a lot of protection, and it's especially important for accounts that hold sensitive information, your email, your banking, or social media. So in conclusion, thank you for watching, and be sure to stay safe online. Hope you can put these tips to use, and hope you've enjoyed the presentation today. Now here's some more information about Arvig.